It was supposed to be just another ordinary day. But before sunrise even kissed the windows, your world began to crumble, one courtroom whisper at a time. A case had been filed against you. Not just any case, but one powerful enough to destroy everything you'd spent your life building. But the worst part? It wasn't the evidence. It wasn't the lies. It was a name that echoed across the complaint. Your brothers. That's right. The very person who once stood beside you like a shadow was now the reason the ground beneath your feet had begun to crack. And you still don't know why. They say blood is thicker than water. But sometimes that blood turns cold. You and Arv were inseparable. Born only a year apart, you shared more than just a room growing up. You shared dreams, secrets, and scars. He was your right hand, your silent strength. When life got brutal, you didn't need the world. You had each other. You remember the night spent under one shared blanket in your broken childhood home, dreaming about escaping poverty. Your parents worked odd jobs, and you both learned early that nothing comes easy. From sweeping floors at local stores to selling snacks after school, every dime was saved, every rupee earned with sweat. When you finally started your own business in your 20s, a small logistics company with one second-hand van, Arv was there. He helped deliver the first packages himself. No complaints. No ego. Just quiet loyalty. But success changes people. Or maybe it reveals who they really are. The business grew. One van turned into 10. Then 50. Contracts came pouring in. Big clients. Bigger money. And with that came the slow, suffocating poison of ambition. At first, it was small things. Ara started showing up late, missing meetings, spending money without discussion. You thought he was just exhausted, overwhelmed. But deep down, a quiet voice had begun whispering, something's not right. You ignored it, because how could your own brother, your blood, betray you? Until one morning the call came. Sir, there's been a complaint filed. You've been accused of financial fraud, corporate theft, and falsification of tax records. You laughed at first, thought it was a prank. You knew your books were clean. But when you reached the office, the silence was deafening. Papers were missing, files deleted, bank statements altered. And then came the shock. Your lawyer looked at you, pale as ash. He slid a document across the table. Filed by R. Malhotra. Claim, I have evidence that my brother has been embezzling funds and hiding profits under false subsidiaries. You stared at the words until they blurred. Betrayal doesn't scream. It whispers. Cold and cruel. Arv wasn't just a witness. He had positioned himself as the victim, claimed you kept him in the dark, cheated him out of his share, and used him as a puppet. The media loved it. Headlines exploded. Self-made millionaire accused of robbing his own family. Cameras followed you like vultures. Social media tore you apart. You tried calling him. Once, twice, 100 times. No answer. When you finally saw him in court, his eyes didn't flinch. No guilt, no warmth, just calculated distance. And then it hit you. He had been planning this. Flashbacks hit like bullets. The business trips he refused to go on. The office he suddenly demanded to move out of. The mysterious calls he always took in private. The new friend he brought in as a consultant, now listed as a witness against you. The walls were closing in. Your friends? Silent. Your employees? Confused. Your reputation? Ruined. You walked out of that courtroom into a world that no longer felt yours. But what they didn't know was that broken men don't disappear. They rebuild. Quietly. Stronger. You didn't waste time begging for sympathy. You vanished from the public eye. Rented a single room above a chai shop on the edge of town. Sold your car. Donated your branded watches. Started walking instead of riding. You didn't run from shame. You wore it. You embraced the silence. Because you knew something others didn't. Pain, when fed with purpose, becomes power. In that tiny room, you started digging. Quietly, patiently, the way you once did when you built your empire from dust. Except this time, you weren't building a company. You were building truth. One night, while going through old cloud backups that Arv never knew existed, you found it, a folder untouched, buried under old timestamps. Inside were emails, receipts, voice recordings, conversations between Arv and your competitors, plans to frame you, move the company's shares, and worst of all, the proof that he was the one who moved the money. Not you, but you didn't react. You didn't go to the police. You didn't call the media, because you weren't done watching how far the lie would stretch. You let him enjoy his temporary kingdom, the interviews, the praise, the fake tears on national television, because you knew something he didn't. Sometimes the most painful betrayal isn't just being stabbed in the back. It's when your enemy thinks you've died from the wound, but you're still breathing. They thought you were done, broken, defeated. Just another scandal in the headlines, another name buried under courtroom lies and media shame. But what they didn't realize was your silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy, because sometimes the quietest ones carry the loudest truth. Months passed. Your name continued to rot under public judgment. Court proceedings dragged on. Your brother, Arv, stood tall before cameras, portraying the image of a heartbroken victim. "I only want justice," he said with a rehearsed tremble in his voice. "I trusted him and he stole from me." But behind the scenes, you were stitching your comeback thread by thread. The folder you discovered in your old cloud backup, that wasn't just a lead, it was the blueprint. The email showed how Arv had coordinated with outside investors to destabilize your logistics company. Audio clips revealed him planning the timing of the accusations, specifically before the company's IPO announcement, to ensure maximum damage. And the final nail? A hidden transaction trail showing that the stolen money was diverted not to offshore accounts under your name, but to his fiancé's brother's shell company. You gathered everything, every receipt, every call log, every timestamp file, but you didn't rush to court. No, you knew the system could be slow, manipulated by those who screamed the loudest. So you decided to build a new court, the court of truth, the court of people. You reached out to a close friend from your college days, Arjun, a rising YouTube investigative journalist known for exposing corruption. You handed him a simple pen drive. "Just watch this," you said. A week later, the world did. The expose dropped like a lightning bolt. The truth behind the brother's case. Who really betrayed whom? The video showed it all. Clips of Arv laughing with rival CEOs. Wire transfers linking him to shady companies. A deep dive into company data, showing how the embezzlement was staged. Voice messages where Arv himself admitted, "Once he's out of the picture, the whole thing is mine." The internet exploded. Hashtags flipped. Hashtag justice for Arv vanished. Hashtag apologize to him now began trending worldwide. But it wasn't about revenge. No, it was about reclaiming your dignity. Within days, legal notices were sent. Your lawyer, who had stayed quietly on your side throughout, filed a defamation suit, submitted the fresh evidence, requested an immediate counter-investigation. The court ordered a freeze on R's assets. His interviews stopped. Invitations dried up. Former supporters deleted their tweets. You weren't just defending yourself anymore. You were exposing a system where betrayal often wears the mask of innocence. But the most heartbreaking moment wasn't the victory. It was the confrontation. You still remember walking into the courtroom, eyes meeting R's across the polished wooden floor. This time, his shoulders slumped. His voice wavered. The mask had shattered. During the recess, he approached you. His voice was barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." You stared at him. The brother who once shielded you from bullies. The boy who once sold his comic books to buy you a birthday gift. You didn't yell. You didn't cry. You simply asked, "Why?" His answer? Selfish, honest, ugly. "Because I was tired of being in your shadow." And there it was, the cruel root of betrayal. Not hate, not greed, but insecurity. The same insecurity that turns love into envy, that twists brotherhood into competition, that makes someone burn the very bridge that saved them. Eventually, the court cleared your name. You didn't even need a full trial. The evidence was overwhelming. Ari was charged with perjury, conspiracy, and financial fraud. The same media that once hunted you now scrambled to apologize. But you weren't celebrating. You returned to your business, not to rebuild what was lost, but to redefine what success meant. You opened a new branch, not in the city skyline, but in a small village where underprivileged youth could learn logistics, coding, and management. You hired people who had been falsely accused before, those who knew the taste of injustice. Because your story wasn't about revenge. It was about resurrection, the kind that rises not from power, but from pain. And for those watching, let this be a reminder. When a case is filed against you, when your name is dragged through the mud, when even your own blood turns against you, do not fold. Do not become what they say you are. Because in that very darkness lies your chance to awaken a fire that no courtroom, no lie, no betrayal can ever extinguish. The world may clap when you fall, but let them be terrified when they see you rise, not to destroy, but to reclaim everything with truth, strength, and silence. And maybe, just maybe, your enemies will learn that stabbing someone in the back doesn't end the story. Sometimes it just begins a new chapter where you're no longer the victim, but the storm they never saw coming.